I hope you're not too tired of abstracting blockchains.
I'm not.
Yeah, I was just actually thinking when we were getting up, like I remember the first time we had this, and there was Peter DiPaolo who rapped before us,
Yep.
and so we were discussing pretty much modular versus integrated. That was the chat, and yeah, so at the end it's all just some level of abstraction away from user. So I think we've been talking about chain abstraction for a while now.
Yeah, many months.
Many months. And I think we had already a bunch of people kind of talking through this. So I think the interesting topic to dig into is let's imagine all of this is abstracted out. Like all of this is shipped, all of these projects are shipped, everybody's amazing, everybody's already retired on a beach somewhere with margarita. And so how will the experience change? How will the users interact? What the businesses will do? And, what we'll see kind of changes in the Web3 landscape, but also how will this affect Web2?
Yeah. So I guess the story that we're trying to tell is a story of a couple of things, which is one, so much of building apps in Web3 has just largely been really hard, really slow, and you have to boil multiple oceans. So if you build a new blockchain VM, you build Solana, well, you build Solana, so you build a new distributed system, but then you now have to recruit this universe of app developers. Then you have to figure out liquidity bridges. Then there has to be a way of people routing their liquidity from wherever they are to wherever they're going. So maybe they have their money in bank accounts and they need exchange accounts. You need to have wallets. You need to have exchanges. You need to have token listings, all of this stuff, right? And this is why every single time we do this, it takes forever. And you have really bad tools to work with. And I think the vision is basically new things get built and they just get plugged in to a coherent framework that users are kind of have an organic way of accessing, right? When you build a new app in Web 2, you don't have to we don't start
reinvent the internet.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll start by shipping servers everywhere to everyone.
Yeah. First we'll make TCP/IP. You'll have to buy a new modem card. Maybe we'll dig new cables to everyone's house, and then we'll start from there. And
then you need to we need a new banking system to roll it out. Yeah.
So this absurd reality is the reality that this set of enabling technologies would inevitably get us to, which is, if you have built something new and compelling, okay, we expose this sort of application surface area, it can get consumed by everyone's existing technologies. If people need to route liquidity or be able to buy and sell things, if I want to handle people's existing assets, I can go figure out what those are by just talking to a bunch of established infrastructure. That's the vision.
So I'll ask a kind of digging question.
Sure.
Because that was the vision of Cosmos.
Yes. It is the vision of Cosmos. And I think it's sort of interesting to ask the question of where are we relative to that vision? So, and I think this has been a year where Cosmos is Cosmos has largely been embracing the chain abstraction worldview, and Dean will be presenting Agoric, which is a bunch of new tools for sort of Cosmos originated chain abstraction that would make all of this much easier. But we finally got to where the point where most Cosmos interfaces are starting to not just understand what tokens you have on what one chain, but what tokens you have on all chains, which is a big goal. Most of the Cosmos wallets will now route your liquidity will route all of your assets somewhat correctly without you having to know what those routes are. We did have to build a bunch of new startup companies in order to do that, and build a bunch of right now fairly centralized APIs to make that possible, but it is non-custodial and it is fast. And it is, but it is kind of wild, like what was all involved. Like, we had to I would say probably the two companies that we had to found in the Cosmos ecosystem. One was Noble, which is the asset issuer for USDC in Cosmos. So we had to start up a new chain, start up a new company, and having those liquidity routes and reverse engineer CCTP and then ship the first version of CCTP, not written by the Circle engineers. So we did all of that, and that that enabled this chain abstraction such that DYDX was able to migrate into Cosmos without losing their user base. All their users who were using an Ethereum bridge before could just move all their liquidity, and that's it actually happened. And then there's this company called Skip, and they have this thing called the Skip API, and it powers a website called ibc.fun. And ibc.fun will basically let you trade any asset in Cosmos for any other asset. But there's a lot of things that ibc.fun can't do. Like, it won't stake your assets for you. It won't automatically sell your staking rewards. It won't split your liquidity between across one or more routes, or spread out your trades over time if you want to reduce slippage. There's a lot of things that we still can't do in the Cosmos ecosystem, or that doing so requires composing a large number of apps that I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in the world doing.
Or knowing that they exist.
There are some Cosmos apps when I look at their TVL numbers and then I know my personal positions. I'm like, I am too much of this.
So, but I think just zooming out, right? I mean, this is great for Cosmos ecosystem, as in, people who are using Tendermint based and Cosmos SDK based chain. But I think at least originally when we were talking about this, right, the idea was that it was connect with the rest of the internet. And I think rest of the Web3 chains. I think that's kind of one of the probably fundamental problems that we should be trying to solve, which is there is kind of these boundaries between ecosystems are very thick. Yeah. And even though there's a lot of demand on kind of connecting things and bridging things, it just doesn't get as much love.
Well, I mean, Ethereum did a bunch of, Ethereum is rediscovering many of the challenges that we saw in Cosmos, right? So when your assets are in Arbitrum, your assets feel very tied to Arbitrum. And when your assets are on Optimism and when your assets are on Base, these feel like completely separate universes. Even if you have one wallet you still have to and you still have to go through some sort of bridging protocol, some sort of liquidity route, some sort of, there may be you may have to actually trade because the assets are non-fungible across these, every L2 it mints their own non-fungible version of ETH.
It pre-mints. For those who doesn't know, on L2s there is a gazillion ETH minted at launch, and then they just withdraw it when you bridge it.
Yeah. So, yes. So these are all problems, but we have the technology. We have the technology to solve these things. It's not we need to engage in another multi-decade research project to turn modularity, large monolithic chains, all of these things into a cohesive. I think the bits and pieces are all here. It's just there's a little bit
some assembly required.
Yeah. Blockchains is in the some assembly required era.
It's a do-it-yourself, kind of experience right now. Yeah, so I think on my side, and a lot of it is kind of as we were, started working on chain signatures, was this limitation of, everybody's kind of in their own ecosystem, kind of trying to solve their own problems, and then cross-ecosystem. I mean, I've seen at least 3 approaches that Cosmos took to try to bridge with Ethereum.
Yep.
And there are bridges, right? But none of them became kind of the IBC thing.
Yep. And now it's kind of pointless to just bridge with Ethereum. If you
exactly, you need to bridge with 1,000, 1,001, 1,002, 1,003 rollups.
Yeah.
And so I think like part of it is also just how do we, like, I mean, obviously abstract all this, but how do we, the question I have is more philosophical and kind of people question. Because again, I agree. I think technology is there, chain signatures are launching. You guys have kind of IBC interchain accounts. There's like a few other options. Liquidity is getting aggregated, there's a bunch of stuff happening. CK provers are getting there to like aggregate security. So,
Yep.
We can cross, like you can put DA of all those things on all DA layers and prove with ZK everything. People are still don't like kind of, complaining on each other on Twitter, dunking on each other.
Yeah.
And so like as this chain abstraction actually like rolling, right? Like will we see more of the cohesion on trying to actually solve problems for the users, or are we going to continue like fighting with each other on Twitter?
So I do think that there's like, so in many ways, what we're seeing on like Ethereum L2s right now is like the recreation of the L1 TVL wars, right? Where it's like, okay, we must attract some critical mass of usage and liquidity to our L2, and therefore like this will become an attractive place to build. And the same thing is happening on, on the L1s of the moment. Like, oh, we've onboarded this many users, we have this much meme coin activity, etc. This will become the mechanism by which we bootstrap. Like, we bootstrap what Ethereum has. Well, I think it's a good question to ask. The question is, what does Ethereum have? Like, what is special about Ethereum? And I think this has been like and I think it's the diversity of use cases. It's the diversity of asset flows. It's the diversity of
integration
of the integrations. Yeah. Like this is the amazing thing that like Ethereum has created, and L2s are right now in this position of trying to recreate it. Alt L1s are in the position of trying to recreate it. The Move ecosystem, the Solana, the SVM ecosystem are all trying to recreate that, and none of them have it today. I think it should be relatively clear that as well as various things are going, as well as L2s are going, as well as Solana is going, as well as things in Cosmos are going, none of these things have the diversity of integrations, users, etc. that ETH L1 has. And so, but like the most likely outcome is, I think, that like apps will instead build for chain abstraction because they will be able to capture, because like at scale, you can have something that is 10x larger than Ethereum's diversity of use cases across all of this ecosystem. And that's the thing that you would want to capture economic value for. That's the thing you want to generate order flow for. That's the place of maximum leverage.
Yeah, and I think, this has kind of been our thesis for past year and a half, is some form of super apps that's going to be pretty much providing a singular gateway to all of the Web3 applications. And like as a user, you wouldn't even know if you're getting routed. Like you don't really care how exactly a trade or, your position or whatever, your NFT gets executed if you're getting like what you want.
Yeah, I think to be very concrete, like at least for a spot market of tokens, do you care what chain the order book actually is? Do you even really care what chain it settles on? Like, it's not.
If you have bags, you do.
If you have bags, you do. But like in general, rationally, the bag holder shouldn't care.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't actually make your bags more valuable that like the order book settles on my chain.
In rational world, yes. I don't think we are living in that, but. Yeah, I totally agree. I think the kind of overall, the applications will be kind of these platforms that are attracting users and creating kind of viral loops. We have DabDab, which is kind of an aggregator for a lot of DeFi across many chains. And kind of as that, that abstraction progresses, you can see kind of that becoming like a place where people just go and like, they don't even think about, oh, there's a new layer 2 launched with a new, functionality. They just use it, and it just showed up in the app.
And I Sommelier has been researching this. Sommelier is a DeFi program I'm co-founder of. It automates it creates a bunch of, basically an agent that does DeFi and like earns yield and trades on your behalf for a wide variety of users. Right now, it's still like, okay, we have our like Arbitrum projects where we have Optimism, we have Base, we have ETH-L1, etc. But eventually, like, I think we're getting like pretty close from a research and development point of view towards you having one app or like one entry point that is, doing DeFi across many chains. And so it will stop mattering as much. Right now we are profiting from the L2 liquidity wars because every L2 will give incentives to, for every launch, and it's good for our bottom line. I think the other things that are fascinating, right, are like, like the Arbitrum ecosystem prints like an enormous amount of tokens into incentivizing yields that like are basically driving revenue for the Arbitrum sequencer. But like, I think we will see that in a chain abstracted world. I think you could see you could see tokens being emitted across, you're going to see apps that will incentivize people with a BRC20, an ERC20, a Solana token, like simultaneously, as like one unified asset with one unified pool of liquidity. But like, you'll be incentivizing actions across a variety of chains because ultimately growing your incentives aren't really tied to one chain.
But I guess the question is, will then we see consolidation as well on the other side? Because if it doesn't matter, then whoever, right now, this liquidity wars they're not like, we talked about this, like the differentiation between the EVM layer 2s is mostly in the name.
Yeah.
It's just a brand war.
And like, there's culture. Like,
yeah, it's a brand war. It's a culture war.
There's a culture. The culture of Optimism and the culture of Arbitrum are like meaningfully different.
And so like one of the kind of questions was like, you use this example of there's lots of different sports teams, right? And everybody's voting for their own team, and they kind of playing all the same sports, right? They at the end are the same, but the brand kind of differentiation is what driving, people interest. But again, like if you assume that people are accessing through a singular gateway, that is like an application.
Maybe people just need to reskin their chain abstracted apps so that they like feel like it's Solana branded, and then they like put on another skin and it feels like Atom branded, and then people can be excited about it pumping their bags. But ultimately they just want to like be able to like buy their meme coins, sell their meme coins, exit liquidity, save their money, earn yield, stake, participate in governance.
Yeah, pretty much like DApp should have, like, if you have a Solana NFT, it just reskins your front end, and then you get another NFT, you get like reskins the front end based on which NFT you have, and then that's your badge of like which tribe you belong to.
That's all we're doing with our PFPs on Twitter.
All right. Well, it's great chat as always. Hope we kind of give a little bit different angle on the discussion as well. But yeah, we'll let the next folks go. Thank you.